Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sheikh Dewa bin Rafi, and here my friend.
My name is Muhammad Arif bin Osman.
Okay, we are here going to present about our article which entitled Identifying Stress Level Among Gamers Using Electroencephalogram Signal. So what is this article all about? Or this research? This research is conducted to identify the stress level among gamers using electroencephalogram machine, which is known as EEG machine. So how does the EEG machine looks like? Here I show you one picture. How does it look like? So overall, this is called EEG machine. The wires that are connected from our subject to the machine is called channels. There are a amount of 19 channels overall, which will be connected to the head of the subject to detect the brain signal, which will be explained by my brother Arif later. So here, this machine is used by neuroscientists to read brain signals, or I explain you more briefly, to capture the brain signals activity through various number of channels. Different type or different models of EEG machine have the different types of EEG, different types of channels. So in our model, in our EEG machine, there are a total of 90 channels is connected to subject to collect the brain signal. This experiment was conducted by following a standard protocol experiment for EEG machine, which will be explained by my brother Arif also later. And this data, actually, the channel will connect it to the subject, and there will be a machine showing all this small graph, moving graph. That is only considered as raw material. So later here, this data will be analyzed using mean frequency substrate coefficient (MFCC) as feature extraction and multi-layer perceptron as classifier. The problem in this research study is to find out whether a video game, addiction to the video game can induce stress or not. The expected outcome of this research is that brain signal collected from subject could give enough evidence to us about the relationship between playing games and stress level in their daily activities. And what we have added here, we are not going to conclude this research based on the material, based on the results from this EEG machine. What we want to do, we have done the DAS21 questionnaire to make sure the result from this side and that side will be tally, so that we can conclude from there. So let me talk about the reproduction of this research. Let me explain what is stress. Stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. It can come from various events or thought that makes you feel frustrated. Stress is our body's reaction to a challenge or demand. So when we play games, we don't know what happened to us. We don't know whether we are angry. So we are gonna find out what is the relationship between the four basic emotions. What are those? Those are happy, calm, fear, and sad, and the emotion while we are playing the games. Okay, so like I stated just now, you can look at the introduction part at the second last paragraph. What we had mentioned here, we had conducted by following a standard protocol experiment for EEG machine usage and DAS21. What is DAS21? It is a questionnaire, questionnaire, which have like 21 questions. So by the subjects filling up this form, we can know what are their hidden feelings or emotion about. So we are gonna tally up both of them, and we will conclude later. So the significance of the project. Why are we doing this, and how does it gonna help to anyone else or to ourselves itself? So the first one, we wanted to identify are the game can induce stress or not. We want to see are we affected when we are playing games? Are we in a normal state? Are there something happen to us during during playing games, we're gonna know that. And second one is to help researchers to analyze the stress data flowing for playing games based on physiological signals using neural network, since the psychological data itself can be lied by the subject. As you know, if we ask someone to just fill out the form or based on the option given, anyone can lie. We can't detect it. So that's what I mentioned just now. We're gonna tally up both of it. So the literature review. There are a lot of articles which have been done by other researchers about EEG, about depression and moreover. So we have picked two the best for our research, which we had referred to as sources too. So the first one will be EEG based evaluation of cognitive and emotional arousal and coding in different programming language. This paper is about an experiment to understand how emotion cognitive load vary while coding in C. As you can see, we have different steps in our experiment here, like we're gonna Brother Arif will explain later. But in their paper, what they have done is compare the EEG method and also the coding C and Python, moreover referred as programming language, to gain better understanding on EEG method. So in this thesis, the novel method was adapted to measure the quantitatively analyze EEG data in order to evaluate the emotion and cognitive level of gamers while coding. So the second one is using the depression, anxiety, stress scale 21. This is more about the DAS 21. And what the best part of this research is, they have used a big data set, about 2,630 employees, which are recruited for 4 different researchers from several companies to validate the result, and they're gonna see either the DAS 21 actually works or not. So that's all from me. Now I'll pass this presentation to my brother Arif to explain about the methodology, what actually happens from the paper. Yes, brother Arif.
So next I will explain about the methodology. For the methodology, we will focus on 5 different stages to complete the research. The first one is the data collection. As you can see, the data collection have 4 things. The first one is eyes closed and open. This is a precursive emotion. We want to collect the brain signal of the subject at the beginning of the experiment and at the end of the experiment to know their initial state. Next, we collect the basic emotion stimuli. There are 4 basic: fear, sad, calm, and happy. We will show them the video that related to this emotion, and from that we can collect the signal from the subject. And next we give them to play 2 types of game. The first one is the realistic games, and the second one is we call it as abstract game. And the last one we have DAS 21. For DAS 21, the question that related to physiological questions. From that we can know whether the subject is stressed or not. Next step is pre-processing, where in pre-processing the raw data need to be pre-processed to ensure all noise and artifact will be reduced. Some technique used to reduce the noise is using elliptic filter. In this research we use elliptic filter. So for the feature extraction, we use MFCC, which is male frequency spectral coefficient. So feature extraction is undergone to determine the important feature of brain signal from 19 channel of the EEG machine. Next we go to the classification part. For the classification, we use a multi-layer perceptron classifier (MLP) to classify the brain signal in order to check the intrinsic motivation of the subject, either being motivated or not. Basically we analyze it using MATLAB. So for the analysis part, we use the we will use the all collected data from the previous step by using MATLAB to get the result of the level of the subject in the experiment. Next, I will explain about the result and the finding that we have find. So basically we have two subjects. The first subject is 20 years old. Before we start the experiment, we ask the subject to answer some question. So from that, we know that subject spend less than 1 hour a week playing a game. And from that, we can conclude that subject is a non-gamer because he spend only 1 hour. So from that, we give subject does 21 questions to know whether the subject depressed or not, and the result score of the subject is for the depression 28, for anxiety 20, and for stress 27. From that we know that subject is more towards to negative emotion and more stress. So as you can see from the graph for the first subject, task 1, eyes closed, as you can see there is blue and red graph. For the red, it show the valence, and for the blue is arousal. For the valence, if the valence is positive and arousal is positive, subject is happy, and if the valence is positive and arousal is negative, the subject is calm, and if the arousal, the red is negative and the blue one is negative, the subject is sad, and if the balance, the red is negative and the blue is positive, the subject is fear. So from that we can see the pattern. For the eyes closed, we can see the subject has mixed mood emotion, which is in this phase the subject feel excited and nervous at the same time before starting the experiment. When we give the subject the first game to being played, the negative emotion are more dominant compared to the positive emotion. This happened because the first game is more difficult compared to the second game, and for the second game, the realistic game, we can see the positive emotion are more dominant compared to negative emotion. From this we can know that the subject feel more relaxed because the game is more easy compared to the first game. And next we give the subject the mathematical question. Yeah, and it shows that the positive emotion are more dominant compared to the negative emotion. So we expect the subject to feel more stress, because usually when you answer the math question, you feel more pressure and stress, but it show difference from what we expect. The subject show more positive emotion. So, and for the eyes closed, the subject also show the same, the positive emotion is more dominant. So what we can say that the subject, by having or playing game, the subject can reduce their, as you can see in the mathematics part, after playing the game, the subject have more positive emotion. For the second subject, I give the subjects question and about gaming, and the subject answer that he playing game around 10 hours a week. So we can conclude that this subject is a gamer, and this subject also, we give this subject also question, that something in question, and the result for the DAS 21 question for this subject is for the depression 4, anxiety 7, and stress 11. So we can conclude that this subject are not really stressed. This subject is more to the positive emotion. So we go and see the first task is eyes closed. For the eyes closed part, we can see the graph. The subject has mixed mood emotion. Positive and negative emotion are balanced, which is the subject is still in feel nervous and relaxed at the same time. So we give the subject play first game, the abstract game, and it show the negative emotions are more dominant compared to the positive emotion. From this, you can see that the subject start to develop stress from this game, and it continue until the second game, the stick game. It can be seen that the negative emotion also more dominance compared to positive emotion. Next, we give the subject mathematical question. It's also same as the playing game. The subject also have more negative emotion compared to the positive emotion. But in the end of the experiment, when we collect the eyes closed for the positive emotion are more dominant compared to negative emotion, because from the subject starting to feel relaxed because the experiment has to be ended, has to be end. So from this we can set that game can also induce stress in spite of the fact that the second subject is a gamer. So we go to the conclusion part. For the conclusion part, based on the both result, we can conclude that playing game can be a mechanism to help people reduce their stress level, and it also can induce stress. So it depends on the person itself on how playing games can affect them in their real life. So that's all from us, and thank you. Assalamualaikum.